Thank you, choir. Please be seated. In LIBA, we care for the earth and we take utmost care to be sensitive to the environment. The act of watering the sapling symbolizes our desire and our attitude in preserving and protecting our environment. Jesuits all over the world have chosen and are committed to caring for our common home as one of the Universal Apostolic Preferences, UAP, and of the Province Apostolic Preferences of the Jesuit-CHENNAI province to which LIBA belongs. May I now request our esteemed dignitaries, Reverend Father C. Joe Arun S.J., Director LIBA, Dr. Xavier Britto, Chairman, Kerry and Dave Logistics, Mr. John Parks, Managing Director, Integrated Logistics, Kerry Logistics Network, Reverend Father Y. Pundirajan, Finance Controller LIBA, Professor P.C. Lakshminarayanan, Dean Academics, and Professor P. Chandran, Associate Dean, Weekend and Diploma Programs, and Chair, Center for Logistics and Supply Chain Management, to water the sapling. Thank you, dignitaries. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. One such eminent leader is our Visionary Director, Reverend Father C. Joe Arun, who is our guide, who meticulously hones our transformation into confident beings. He is always ready to take the leap to experiment and innovate into the future. And with that note, I invite Reverend Father C. Joe Arun to address the gathering.
Reverend Father Pundirajan, Finance Controller, Professor Lakshminarayanan, Dean Academics, Professor Chandran, Associate Dean for Weekend and Part-Time, and also its operations, and also the Logistics Supply Chain Management area. And Dr. Xavier Britto, the Chairperson of Kerry and Dave Logistics, Sir John Parks, MD, Integrated Logistics, Kerry Logistics Network, Mr. Daniel Ferry is here. Show your face, as they have not seen you. Yes, Daniel Ferry, the Senior Manager for Business Development, Faculty of LIBA. And in Kerry India, there are so many verticals are here. CHA verticals, freight forwarding verticals, CTS, CD verticals, 3PL, FTWS, Z, AFS, Express Logistics, Yennur Cargo Container Terminal Private Limited, Estel Group, St. Britto institutions, and my officials, faculty, staff, my dear students and ladies and gentlemen. If you have mind to see, understand, if you have an acumen to analyze the roots of growth and development in the world, says David Parker, the core of this growth and development lies not in any other thing except logistics and supply chain management. When I read this, I was really surprised. Because we talk about marketing, we talk about finance, we talk about HR, the importance of so many areas. Why does he speak in Harvard Business Review? He said, centuries after centuries, British ruled India and effectively ruled India because of logistics and supply chain management. The rail lines, roads and ports, it is because of this uninterrupted supply chain, and they were able to really work on the relationship between the manufacturer and the consumer. The link, the relationship, the speed, cost effective, and timely delivery of things. When Tanjore was having a huge yield, that entire yield was sent to Manchester very quickly. And you talk about Bengal famine, but the entire produce could go to England so quickly. It is because of this. The success story speaks a lot about this. Similarly, if you take the pandemic, that switched our minds, upended the way we see the world, and made us all become digital persons. We were asked to develop our digital competence. There is no physical interactions. We were able to interact, virtual interactions, where supply chain was the first one to be affected. And they have used it differently. Now today, AI, IoT, artificial intelligence, definitely is going to make the changes in logistics supply chain management. Understanding this LIBA last 2 years, particularly after pandemic, we thought one of the verticals we should begin is logistics and supply chain management. During Corona, we started the center called Center for Technology Innovation. And we wanted to strengthen this logistics and supply chain management. We were not experts in this. We lacked the capacity to strengthen this area. That is where I approached Dr.Xavier Britto, who is not only alumnus of LIBA, he is an alumnus of Loyola College, and he is the council, our governing council member. And I told him he's my good brother. I told him this is what we are going to do. And we want to also build this institution and also infrastructure. This auditorium, towards the expenses, partly he gave us 3.5 crore. This is why Xavier Britto Auditorium. And everywhere, whenever we come together, we pronounce his name, Xavier Britto. And we signed an MOU with him. And to strengthen this area, Professor Chandran was heading this entire thing. And we developed, and also there are 5 to 6 industry experts are teaching our students and built this entire thing. One of the things I asked him to also institute to this endowment lecture, he gave an amount to start this endowment lecture. This is the first inaugural endowment lecture we have. That's why we have invited all the members of Kenny Indev and others. This is inauguration. And we said we will also invite many people, but we said we will have the verticals, among the verticals, very key people to be here. Then Mr. Xavier Britto gave us. Because if you talk about Xavier Britto, this is you need to have a day to talk about really mean. Because of his experience, he's a first time entrepreneur. His family is not entrepreneur family, it's a teacher's family. And starting from a very lowly background, rags to riches we call, many people talk about it, but this is a very true story. But he studied, wanted to be an academic. He was a professor of Loyola College, Chennai, later ventured into logistics business, presently chairman Kerry India Private Limited, founded Indev, a synonym for Indian development, in 1984, with the immediate objective of carrying on clearing and forwarding operations and the long-term objective of offering comprehensive cargo handling facilities. In the year 2016, Indev joined hands with the Kerry Logistics, China, to expand its network worldwide. Kerry Indev is one of the leading largest logistics service providers in India, with all the services under one roof, such as CHA, Transport, IATA, CFS, ICD, AFS Operations, International Freight Forwarding, 3PL, Free Trade Zone Warehousing, NVOCC Operations, the first logistics company to receive AEO status from Government of India for all the logistics activities such as custom, house agency, container freight station, inland container depot, and international freight forwarding. Kerry Indev was issued the first license in the private sector to set up air freight station, AFS, near Chennai, India. Continuous innovation introduced by him in logistics services have brought many laurels to Indev, including many national, international awards from government and other industries. He also has already developed a curriculum, his own mastermind, that the curriculum is being used in all over, particularly we use it here. And his innovation, his leadership, that is a model to emulate, and his strategies are very important, key to replicate in all over this industry. Therefore, he is associating with us, not as somebody outsider, but an insider who has been brought up and formed by Loyola College and Jesuits, and he is accompanying us even in our own education, in business education in LIBA. Although he is our own insider, our own brother, on behalf, this is a formal, the first time inaugural, on behalf of the rector, on all the Jesuits, all the director of units in this campus, and Father Provincial, everybody, and here in LIBA, all the faculty, officials, students, staff, everybody, I want to warmly welcome with a bouquet or a basket of fruits for you. May this, your journey may be fruitful everywhere. And I asked Dr.Xavier Britto, please get me a speaker, because this is an inaugural session. Get me a speaker who can speak well and also inaugurate this. And he has brought an Englishman, John Parks. Already, I had a short introduction. He's fantastic, because last night he has eaten southern spice food. I don't think you will survive this entire session. And we have, behind we have, you can ease yourself at any time. No problem. Yes, southern spice, he has it all. He showed me the photograph. I said, he has eaten all this? Okay. Let's have an inaugural session. And I find him a very fine, warm person, down to earth. Dr. Xavier Britto told me he's a down to earth, and he will be clear. Yeah, John Parks joined Kerry Indev Logistics Network in September 2019 as managing director. integrated logistics to take up the leadership and oversee the overall management of global integrated logistics business of the group. Mr. Parks has over 40 years of experience in the transportation and logistics industry with a specific focus on the Asia Pacific region. He has held operation leadership positions in major logistic businesses, specializing in multi-country business development and management and global account management. Mr. Parks obtained his diploma in logistics from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, 1990, and completed an executive management program at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, Sloan School of Management, USA, 2010. And he is an English but Australian citizen and lives both in Hong Kong and Thailand. And you are the best person to talk about logistics supply chain management. I don't know what you do, inflow of goods and outflow of goods from Australia, Hong Kong and Thailand, all this. So on behalf of everybody here, and especially from personal greetings from Dr. Xavier Britto, we warmly welcome you with a basket of fruits. This is after Southern Spice, you can eat this, or before also. Yeah, it's okay. You can sit and you receive, and you also stand and receive. Yeah. And I want to welcome all of you for this. This is going to be a very official endowment lecture. We will be listening to John Parks. Before that, we will also listen to inaugural address Dr. Xavier Britto. This is a Kerry Indian and LIBA is not a separate entity. It is part of us. So joining together, because in this context of pandemic and all, collaboration is very important. So we have to collaborate with each other, pool our strengths. Whatever Kerry Indian has the strengths, we will make use of it in LIBA, and LIBA will grow while Kerry Indian will also grow. So on behalf of everybody in here, as a director of LIBA, I warmly welcome you all. Have a very productive, informative and formative time. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for setting the tone for the day. May I now request Reverend Father C. Joe Arun, Director LIBA, to present mementos to Dr. S. Xavier Britto, Chairman, Kerry Indian Logistics, and Mr. John Parks, Managing Director, Integrated Logistics, Kerry Logistics Network, as a token of our appreciation and gratitude. Thank you, Father. Kerry Indian is one of the leading and largest logistics service providers in India, with all services under one roof, such as transport, international freight forwarding, free trade zone warehousing, and other such operations and logistics services. It is the first logistics company to receive the AEO status from the Government of India for all the logistics activities, such as Custom House Agency, Container Freight Station, Inland Container Depot, and International Freight Forwarding. We will now have a short video presentation on Kerry Indian Logistics.
Kerry Indian Logistics, since 1984, under the exemplary leadership of Dr. Xavier Britto, evolved to be the most cost-effective logistics service provider, contributing significantly to Make in India and the PM Gati Shakti plan. One of the first and very few companies in India with AEO status, offering all the logistics services under one roof. Integrating with Asia's giant Quark Group, Kerry Logistics Network stretches across 65 countries with 560 offices, having more than 48,000 employees, managing over 75 million square feet warehouse across the globe. Pan-India Customs House Agent with Best CHA Award for the past 10 consecutive years. The first private logistics company to be awarded the Certificate of Merit by World Customs Organization. Over 500 fleet of Vahan for transportation of containerized, break bulk and ODC cargo and LCL loads. Transshipment Air Cargo Clearance AFS, a unique, first-of-its-kind facility in the country as a one-stop solution located prominently on the Chennai-Bangalore highway, where ULDs are moved from airport to ICD for direct delivery. World-class container freight stations at Chennai, Tuticorin and Mumbai. Inland container depot at Iringattakotte, Tirupur and Karur with state-of-the-art facilities. International freight forwarding, sea and air freight services, including cargo consolidation and air chartering. Exclusive contracts with many major airlines and shipping lines offering cost-effective transportation of cargoes around the world. Pan-India specialized project cargo handling. End-to-end logistics support with vast experience in handling major corporate projects. LCL import and export consolidation, offering cost-effective services with customized solutions. Pan-India ultra-modern 3PL warehouses hosting Fortune 500 companies with efficient WMS and SAP systems, offering just-in-time inventory management. Free Trade Warehousing Zone under SEZ is a deemed foreign territory where freely convertible foreign currency for transactions provides various financial and revenue benefits, offering wider scope of value addition services. Integrated cold chain logistics comprising of refrigerated warehousing and customized cold storage solutions. Shipping agency, chartering, partnered with Kerry Group, PACC and PCL Line, offering vessel chartering services with dedicated trade lanes for break bulk, project logistics and container feeder shipments. Pan-India Express Logistics, cargo and parcel services with 7,000 plus PIN codes, including line haul service solutions for e-commerce, B2B and B2C segments. Kerry India is equally committed to its corporate social responsibility. Seek Foundation was instituted for bringing consciousness towards basic health, education and empowerment to every citizen. St. Britto's group of institutions is dedicated towards imparting quality education through the latest educational systems and technologies. Collaboration with Loyola Institute of Business Administration, LIBA, path-breaking innovative steps are created towards upskilling and developing skilled manpower in the field of logistics and supply chain management. Kerry India has been bestowed with numerous national and international awards from customs, government, customers and chambers. As always, it is Kerry India leading the way into the future of global logistics with its competent, competitive and comprehensive services.
I am extremely delighted to have this opportunity to welcome Dr. Xavier Britto, Chairman, Kerry India Logistics Private Limited. Dr. Britto is an acclaimed leader and an entrepreneur who has created an empire in the logistics sector. The continuous innovations and strategies introduced by Dr. Xavier Britto in the logistics services have brought laurels to the company, including many national and international awards from government and international bodies. And we take pride in saying that Dr. Britto is a proud alumnus of Loyola College and LIBA. May I now invite Dr. Xavier Britto to deliver his inaugural address.
At the outset, I thank Almighty and my parents for this wonderful day. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all for the first endowment lecture in my name. I am really thankful and grateful to Father Joe Arun for having given this opportunity to address the first endowment lecture. In fact, as he mentioned, I always call him as my intellect brother. I have spiritual priest, holy priest, and brotherly priest, and Father Arun is my intellect priest. So, also, you know, it is really a proud moment for me and my family, including my brothers and sisters, when the Jesuit management of Loyola College and Father Arun gave me the opportunity to contribute to this Dr.Xavier auditorium, to part of the history of this renowned institutions. I always think, how many people will get this opportunity? Many people are rich, many people are capable, many people are talented. But I always feel God has blessed me in this respect to get this fantastic opportunity. I should welcome Mr. Park, who has got a global exposure, and definitely he'll be able to give us a lot of knowledge, particularly in the supply chain logistics. And Mr. Daniel and Professor Chandran and the faculty of LIBA and my valuable customers, my Indev, Kerry Indev logistics and my group colleagues and the LIBA students. I welcome you all for this fantastic moment of my life. In fact, you had seen the journey of myself, Indev, and then Kerry Indev over a period of 4 decades. It is not easy. As I always say, success is not destination. It is only a journey. We have to keep on traveling. When I always come into this campus of Loyola College, I become very emotional because this LIBA, I was an old student of the LIBA. If I had not joined LIBA, I would not have become a businessman in my life. In fact, the person who introduced me into shipping, fortunately, I requested him to be here, that is Mr. Bhaskaran. Please stand, sir. This is the first occasion I meet him in a public forum. And in fact, when I had to remember those days, he was my professor in human behavioral science, that is more of HR management. One day he asked me to take a class, and he listened to that class, and after that he asked me to come down, and that time he was joining a small company for containerization. He invited me to join him, and I became part of that organization. And later on, he had to resign and go to NIPM. Then I had the opportunity to start this company in a very small way. I only say my parents' blessings and Almighty's blessings. When I started with 5 people and with a minimum investment way back, I never thought that I will stand before you all on this occasion, that to institute an endowment lecture in logistics, and that too from my most emotional and favorite Loyola College. I was only thinking, because I studied in St. Joseph's, Trichy. Again, God's ways are very strange. If only St. Joseph's had MCOM, I would not have come to this city life, because I had never been to Chennai. For the first time, I had to visit Chennai because of the post-graduation, because Loyola only had postgraduate, and my mother insisted that I have to go through only Jesuit institutions. And that way, I came here. I could not get the hostel accommodation. I was staying in Kalmandam and Rayapuram for a brief period, and I used to travel from by 6C bus and then come to the beach station. From there, I used to come to my Nungampakkam station and further down to the college. It was a big challenge for me, almost a village boy coming into the city, and to be part of a big institution like this, and that time many international students were studying. It was a big challenge. But I took the challenge, and many priests helped me, and with that I got the gold medal from this college for income. And because of that, I was asked to join the faculty in the evening, because I had to make the ends meet. My father and mother retired. I took a small house in Pudupet, a very small rent, and my sisters were studying, and I had to do a lot of things. So from morning till evening, I was taking up a lot of guest lectures from Anglo-Indian school to CBSE school, then coming all the way to Loyola College to teach my evening college, and then go back and study for my company secretaryship and law and so on. After 1 year, then I joined in the evening college. That time it was only evening college, 3 years in LIBA, and LIBA gave me the experience and exposure to become self-confident, to become a first generation businessman. What I am trying to tell you is that the LIBA students here, you're all fortunate to get admission into this fantastic institution, and this institution will definitely give you the required capabilities, talents, and more than that, the self-belief. And that is why once the great Vivekananda was asked by a British, why can't you wear a proper dress to look like a gentleman? Vivekananda smiled and replied, in your culture, tailor makes the gentleman. In our culture, character makes the gentleman. Today, I should say proudly, Jesuit fathers and Jesuit institutions are creating gentlemen for this country. And they are faring so well, contributing to the society and the nation, even to the global level. And I am also fortunate to be part of that group. Father Joe, I'm always grateful to you, because I always have a vision that this logistics have to be structured. The logistics will have to reach a stage where it has to become more professional in terms of studies. and you gave me the opportunity to be part of this LIBA to make the joint venture to redefine and fine-tune whatever I had in my ideas in terms of syllabus and curriculum. But of course, we have a long way to go. We will still make it, and I promise you, with all my experience with a group of my friends, I will definitely make one of the best curriculum and structured education for this logistics, and that will be the future. And my vision is to make logistics university in this country. As you all know, why logistics is so important. Now IMF has clearly projected India is the top, it has come to the top 5th place in the world economy, having almost $3.8 trillion, the size of the economy. And it has also made a clear projection for the future, as our Prime Minister has envisaged that in 2025, this country will reach $5 trillion economy. Which means India, we will move up to the 3rd place in the world economy, which is a real pride for us. If you need to become a 5 trillion economy, the driving force and the growth engine has to be logistics. It is because 14.4% of the GDP is the size of the logistics, which is today in 2022 is approximately 280 billion, expected to be, when you become a $5 trillion economy, it has to become a $380 billion size of this logistic industry, which means the required importance has to be given. The pre-pandemic people were not talking about logistics much, but post-pandemic has brought in a very important concept that logistics, everybody started mentioning, even a vendor, vegetable vendor is talking about logistics because it is so important. Also, this industry is one of the top 5 employment providing industry. Because as of today, 2022, more than 31 million people are employed. And the growth rate of this logistic industry is growing at the rate of 10%. Which means, in the future, this industry can answer a lot of questions for the demography of this country. We are going to have so many young talents are going to come up. That is the reason why I thought we need a structured, professional, logistic education with appropriate practical orientation. Because today, it is not as simple logistics. People were talking about transportation, destination, logistic, and so on. It is a smart logistics. You need efficient and intelligent way to manage, intelligent way to control all the logistics way, all the logistic activities with the innovative technology. That is why I thought logistics doesn't stay with arts. We need engineering, we need technology, we need management. Which means this industry, logistical studies, when it is becoming comprehensive, will have to evolve into a situation where I have engineering students, management students, and technology students. That is why I say that this industry is progressing so fast that we need to quickly find a solution for this academics. Basically, today, India is growing well, but still we are fragmented. Still we are unorganized. The logistic cost of this country is one of the highest. The last 5 years, Central and state government are making a lot of efforts how to reduce this cost. Because if you don't reduce the cost, you're talking about 5 trillion economy. When you reduce the logistic cost, the world average is around 8 to 9%. Whereas Indian average is about 14% of the GDP. If you could reduce, it is said, below 10%, the contribution to the GDP will immediately go up, and why 5 trillion? You will even go to 10 trillion. That is the reason why the government is talking so much about fine-tuning the logistic industry. Where we are missing today, because people have a conception, what is logistics? All the critical factors are logistics. What are the critical factors? You talk about road transport, railway transport, air transport, sea transport, supply chain, warehouse, inventory management, and final delivery, including e-commerce. That is logistics today. It is not just a shipping and air freight. The whole lot of thing has to come under the logistics. India has not found optimization of this logistic model. Not found a proper mix between road, rail and water. If only you find a right mix of this, we will be in a position to reduce the overall logistics cost. Why I say this? It is because today in India road transport constitutes 62%, whereas railway transport is only 30%, and the balance is air transportation, water and coastal. But the right mix has to be, as we have in the Western and American other country, is basically 20 to 25% will have to be the road transport, and 50% has to become railway transport, and the balance 20-25% has to become water transport. You would have seen recently, including our Prime Minister, the entire central government started giving so much of importance to coastal shipping and water transport. They are trying to connect 111 rivers in this country, because water transportation today is not even 1%. We need to move up, because we are talking about green supply chain management, carbon emission and eco-friendly so on. We have to move up. Only then the logistics cost can be reduced. And because of that, for example, cold chain warehousing logistic itself has to be given so much of importance. This country is an agriculture country. So much agriculture product is produced is getting wasted. If only we have a professional cold chain warehousing situation, we could even reduce the waste by 10%. 10% is huge for this country. I'm happy that free trade zone warehousing has started moving up in this country. Apart from the various other, e-vehicle, e-commerce and so on. Today e-commerce is moving towards e-vehicle, which is really good for our country. There is so much of development is happening in e-vehicle, electric vehicles. That is the reason why the logistic industry as a whole, if you look at it, how important it is for any economy. And we have started realizing this in the last 5 years, particularly after post-pandemic. I am thankful to the government because for the first time they have started initiating new initiatives for various schemes like Gati Shakti, which is nothing but, which is fantastic. 10 years back I used to talk about this in all the conferences, wherein you make a comprehensive database of all the ministries, particularly 16 ministries are being combined, which will definitely increase the efficiency of the logistics sector. That's why they have ULIP program, Unified Logistics Interface Platform, which is a fantastic move towards digitalization of this this particular industry. Because today, so many ministries are coordinating logistic industry. I advocated for a logistic department 10 years back. Now they have put up a separate department for logistics. Now I am advocating everywhere, please create a logistic ministry, because if only you can focus your attention on this, you will save a lot of money and you can increase your GDP levels, and which will also be coming up soon. So naturally, the government is taking a lot of initiative, and then you would have heard National Logistics Policy, which is a real breakthrough for this country, wherein you are trying to prevent the challenges of transportation, making savings for the manufacturers, and also to ensure the last mile delivery in order to make sure the consumers get their goods on time. The National Logistics Policy is an important step towards this. They have also made Sagarmala project, which is a very important improvement in this industry, which is nothing but develop and modernize the ports around our coastal area. India has got one of the highest coastal area, that is almost about 7,500 kilometers. The right policy has been evolved, and they are creating some SEZs and free trade zones around the area. Also they have made Bharat Road Mala, which is nothing but to have efficient road connectivity and multimodal transportation connectivity across the country. Above all, now they are evolving National Logistics Law, which is very important for this industry, which is nothing but one nation, one market objective, and also, more importantly, which was lacking before, flexible regulatory governmental procedures and policies. That's where they have decided to move up in the ease of doing in the performance logistic industry within 25. If we can move into that, yes, they are already talking about the shift of manufacturing from China, Taiwan, because of the geopolitical situation. I'm telling you, my friends, already we have started seeing a lot of manufacturing, big manufacturing coming, including Apple. Everybody has started coming into India, and this is going to give a huge employment opportunities. You will see in 5 years' time, there is a huge shift of manufacturing industry globally coming into India. Thanks to our government, every state is getting a regional appropriate distribution of this industry. And we will be, as logistic, with the comprehensive solutions, as Kerry has shown, will be the backbone of the trade, industry, manufacturing, and for the future e-commerce distribution. Finally, having said that, I think Joe and myself, the team will have to, Rajan Babu and other team will have to work seriously structuring our syllabus. But according to my knowledge, people think logistics is standalone. Logistics is not standalone category. As I told you, logistics requires strong marketing people. Logistics requires strong financial people. Logistics requires strong HR people, which means what I am trying to do it. When I was talking to him and we are structuring, there are about 8 to 9 categories of big employments in logistic industry. So we will drive the syllabus and curriculum from the employment opportunity. It is a backward integration we do it. And we will also ensure that we add up certain humanities, such as financial management, accounts, HR, statistics, and these subjects we could combine, making it as a 24 subjects for the graduation, maybe about 6 semesters, and about advanced research and practical training for the post-graduation. This is what I am trying to advocate to the institutes. Have 50% classroom education and 50% onto the field, where people like us, we have the facilities to train the people so that the manufacturing companies or trading companies, whoever it is, when they are absorbing the young talents, they don't have to put these people on the job again for 1 year to train them, to get on to them to the practical work. So our approach has to be, we will make this as a structured one with the humanities added, and we will go for this. Once we go for this, we will insist the government to get on to this logistics university. You know, I have a dream. Today you are talking about IIT. It's a specialized institution for technology. I want this logistics university to be a specialized institute like IIT. One day, I may not be there, maybe in 10 years' time, there could be IITs for logistics. Why I say? Because this country has started realizing the comprehensive logistics solution and the speedy last mile connectivity in order to become globally competitive. If that is the case, then only your exports will increase. Once your exports increase, you will get a lot of foreign exchange and a lot of other benefits will follow. So everything basically is around this logistics. To end, please understand, for success, you need a goal. And for a goal, you need a vision. And for a vision, you need a passion. The road to success needs passion. Why I am today standing and insisting on an endowment lecture, it is because I am passionate towards this logistic industry, having spent so many other years in this industry. And dear friends, good things come to people who believe. Better things come to people who are patient. The best things come to the people who never quit. I will never quit until my vision, because I always say, yes, we can be successful in business, but the satisfied life is much, much better than your successful life in any profession, because success is measured by the people around you, whereas the satisfaction is measured by your heart and soul and mind. And for me, logistics is a passion, and I want my satisfied life by leaving some legacy in this logistics education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Mr. John Parks, the Managing Director, Integrated Logistics at Kerry Indev Logistics. Mr. Parks joined Kerry Logistics Network in the year 2019 as Managing Director, Integrated Logistics, to take up the leadership and oversee the overall management of the global integrated logistics business of the group. Mr. Parks has over 40 years of experience in the transportation and logistics industry from the Middle East to Malaysia, from South Africa to Singapore, and has worked in several other countries. With a specific focus on the Asia-Pacific region, he has held operational leadership positions in major logistic businesses, specializing in multi-country business development and management, commercial negotiations, global account management, and many more. Prior to Kerry Indev, Mr. Parks worked in Lee and Fume Group's IDS Logistics as an Executive Vice President, Head of Hong Kong Executive Director, Global Business Development, and Head of Hong Kong and Taiwan. Mr. Parks has obtained his diploma in logistics from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, 1990, and has committed to complete an executive management program in the MIT Sloan of School Management, USA, in the year 2010. We are indeed fortunate to have Mr. Parks in our midst today. I now invite Mr. Parks to deliver the keynote address.
Hi, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon, almost. Good morning, actually. Thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me here for this auspicious occasion. It's always a very difficult act to follow Mr. Britto, but I shall try my best. So my name's John Parks, and thank you very much for the kind introduction. I was a little bit of my background. I was born in the UK, and I left when I was 23 years of age, and I headed to Saudi Arabia, and I worked for 2 years in Saudi Arabia, and from Saudi Arabia I then emigrated to South Africa, and from South Africa I was there for 14 years, and I had the pleasure of meeting many of your fellow countrymen in a place called Chatsworth, near Durban. There's over 1 million Indian folk live there, so we became very close friends. And I taught my wife how to make proper Indian food. So I don't think I need the bathroom, but I hope not. Okay. And from India, we then moved across to Australia. My wife and 2 kids, and then I ended up working in Asia, in Hong Kong initially. And I worked in Asia for the last 21 years on and off. So it's been a very exciting journey. So today I just like to share with you how I see, and how a lot of my colleagues also see, the future of logistics going forward. I think especially for the guys at the back of the room and for all you students, I think it's an absolute pleasure for me to be able to address you today, because you guys, as Dr. Britto said quite rightly, you are the future, and you're going to be leading this industry a long time after we are no longer here. So good luck, and I hope you pick something up today that's quite interesting. And at the end of my session, I'll also be looking at have a short Q&A. So without any further ado, please don't mention the cricket. On the way here, Australia just lost the Gavaskar Trophy, and I actually lived 20 minutes from the Adelaide Oval in Australia. So it was, I wasn't sure. I was coming here with my tail between my legs, especially after you guys had some very good greenkeepers creating the spinning wicket. But I'm pleased to say Australia came back in the ODIs. So I think it was a good effort by both countries. Okay, so this is my company. This is Kerry Logistics Network. As you can see by the statistics on the charts, these numbers are from 2021. Our annual results will be released next week, next Thursday, 28th of March. But you can read from 21 we had $10 billion US, 59 countries and territories, and we have 40,000 plus employees. So the strength of our business is the network. You can't really run a proper end-to-end supply chain company without a network. And you can see all the countries that we're represented in, we have an extremely strong global presence, and that really is the strength and depth of the organisation. And obviously you need people to be able to make it work. So I'd just like to start off really, where are we today? So where's the world right now, post-pandemic? Thankfully, the pandemic is behind us, and we're now moving into a whole new era. Inflation has been impacted by several factors simultaneously. The global trade war, COVID, the Russian war, central bank rates and exchange rate fluctuations. And the IMF, in terms of actual records and forecasts, in 2021 the global GDP was 4.7%, 8.8% in 2022, down to 6.6 in 23 and 4.3 inflation in 2024. So as you can see, the whole world is really coming out of this whole COVID scenario. But what's really been impacted a lot of the countries is the rising food and energy prices and the supply chain cost pressure. And inflation is expected to be impacted by slow demand, rising wages and the weaker US dollar. So inflation is here for the short term, and hopefully, as I've just noticed the last couple of days, there seems to be an easing from the central banks. So the messages they're sending out is that the interest rates will be easing in the future. And of course the war is not something any of us like to see happening. That's really hit the hardest hit the countries who have a real dependence on energy, oil, gas, and also fertilizers. The cost of fertilizers doubled, which meant the whole agricultural industry is now facing real hardship. Okay. This is really interesting. Last year I was in the US doing a roadshow with some of my colleagues, and every company we talked to had an issue with inventory. So what happened, the first half of 2022 was actually quite good, especially in the US. The sales really accelerated. So the pandemic altered the whole retail market. Consumer demand skyrocketed, the stay-at-home mandates facilitated a lot of online shopping. This ongoing trend lasted 2 years. Second, supply chain issues affected deliveries. To continue meeting demand amid longer lead times, retailers ordered further in advance and excess to ensure availability and assuming everything would carry on in the same vein. Taking the cue from recent spending habits, these included household appliances, electronics and apparel. But as the supply chain issues began to evolve, consumer spending cooled off around Q2 2022. Purchases shifted away from goods to pre-pandemic services, such as vacations, restaurant dining, outdoor entertainment. So what happened? The piles of inventory was stacking up. Retailers, bank and consumers continued to spend more money like they had in the previous years. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was just like a game of musical chairs. Music stopped and retailers were left standing with huge piles of inventory. Consumer spending also lessened as inflation rose, jumping up 8.5% in July from the previous year. Non-essential items became a backseat to more fundamental products like gas and groceries. Just to quote some examples. So Nike, US. Of course, because we had late product arriving from the spring, summer and fall seasons, we effectively had a few seasons landing in the marketplace at the same time. So we've decided to take that inventory and more aggressively liquidate it. So this is what's happening. A lot of these brands, and you can see by the chart, you see the statistics, they've got far too much inventory. So if they can't sell it through the normal channels, then it has to go through, first of all, it will go discounted, then to outlet stores, and eventually it will actually be liquidated completely. Walmart, after the retail giant reported a 32% increase in inventory at the end of the last quarter, store-level employees told Insider horror stories about their backroom, including pallets everywhere, floors unwalkable, couldn't even get to the bathroom for the amount of product in the way. Amazon warehouse near Nashville has been overwhelmed by last winter's puffy jackets and summer cans of bug spray. According to an Amazon employee who spoke of the condition of anonymity or fear of losing his job. So all of these brands have massive inventory issues. Okay, in terms of shipping, and a lot of you in this room, including some of my colleagues, are very much involved in the freight forwarding world. But since the spring of 2022, ocean freight prices have come down. The China West Coast US rates recently hitting pre-pandemic levels. But you can see the chart. There was a huge spike, upward spike, and there's actually been a faster spike coming down. Volumes of imported containers to the US have continued to fall through November, and congestions eased significantly, especially in LA, Long Beach on the West Coast, where congestion levels returned to normal in late November. Freightos data shows that the rates to ship a 40-foot container from Asia to the West Coast have come down by more than 80% since the end of April, while prices to the East Coast have fallen by almost 2/3. According to the Freightos data, the freight rates fell 21% to $2,600 FEU in November, to its lowest level since December 2020, as demand continues to slow and congestion levels decreased. This rate is 72% lower than a year ago, although it is still double the 2019 level. So despite the increases in blank sailings, spot rates fell significantly for all Asia lanes in November. Volumes declined and congestion eased at some ports. So just to give you some examples, as of February this year, 2023, the Asia-North America West Coast rates fell 42%, down 90% since a year ago. Asia-North America fell 31%, Asia-Europe fell 16%. So even though improving congestion remains a factor, together with the increases in the blank sailings, it's still keeping rates 180% higher than in 2019. Okay, so in terms of the trends, in terms of the new economy business, so there's 6 key trends you can see here on the chart. So regional wide growth. So the ASEAN rising population is hitting 726 million. By 2030, there'll be over 80 million new online consumers. Last year, Asia Pacific accounts for more than 50% of of the world's population and the largest retail markets in the world. Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership signed by the 15 Asia-Pac countries eliminate as much as 90% of the tariffs that were originally in place. Asia-Pac share of the households with upper and middle income is expected to reach 55%. Asia-Pac accounts for 54% share of the global B2C, C2C transactions, offline and online. So you can see where the trend is in terms of the whole demographics, etc. The Asia-Pacific area is by far the fastest growing parts of the world from a consumption perspective. So B2C now and B2B soon. In 2020, the growth of online retail sales in Asia-Pac was nearly double the rest of the world. Consumers tend to move between online and offline experiences. The Asian markets witness a rise of new store concepts, customer centricity, personalised experience, D2C, private labels and e-commerce related investments. The changing demographics with the rise of Gen Z consumers looking at you through a new lens. 300 millennials is already a big consumer base. But the next generation of 300 million Gen Z customers, so 300 million millennials and an additional 300 Gen Z consumers emerge in China. Gen Z customers are far more socially aware, tech, media and savvy, and I'm sure all you guys in the back row are fitting into that genre. I'm a baby boomer, if you want to know my classification. I just made it. And the new generation is Generation Alpha, so let's see how that goes. Localized business models, manufacturing spillover, and ESG. ESG is on the rise. This is really, really important because whilst in the logistics and the supply chain, we talk a lot about the future, technology, robotics, automation, digital, etc., etc. There's a real drive in terms of pushing environmental, social, and corporate governance. And as a 3PL provider, every RFP we now receive from brands looking to provide solutions, etc., there is now maybe 20% of their scorecard is related to sustainability and the ESG initiatives. So whilst, yes, we need to understand what's happening in terms of the future from a digital perspective, we also need to take cognizance of what's happening in terms of sustainability. So, the new trends. So I love this chart. This is the global trends radar. This is basically how we see the whole future of logistics going forward. So we break that down into different categories: social and business trends. We look at metaverses, remote work, diversity, equity and inclusion. I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. Smartification, circularity, environmental stewardship and decarbonisation. So these are social and business trends. In terms of technology, we've got autonomous vehicles, indoor robotics, stationary robotics, alternative energy solutions, computer vision, smart labels, edge computing, interactive AI, wearable sensors, technology and bio-based materials. So that's what's happening in the technology world. And look at the new perspective and lenses. We look again at customer experience, environmental sustainability, which I've just mentioned, and health and safety at work, physical and digital security, and also visibility and resilience. So these are all the trends that we see happening out in the future. I think right somewhere at the top of that scale we've got space logistics heading our way. This chart's really interesting. We've got the 5 critical supply chain strategy predictions. If you look at the grey boxes along the bottom, where we have the ecosystems, modular and autonomous, that's pretty much in place already. But what really needs to complement that, the 2 yellow boxes in terms of sustainability and DEI. DEI is diversity, equity and inclusion. So to break that down a little bit in more detail, by 2026, more than 50% of large organisations will compete as collaborative digital ecosystems rather than discrete firms, sharing inputs, assets and innovations. Now that in itself, very few words, but it's a really big deal. Because what it means is we're going to get companies who were previously competitors actually working and collaborating with each other. I had a personal experience of this in the UK several years ago with an operation with Marks and Spencer, and they had 4 main contractors or providers, partners in the logistics field, and they pulled them all in a room together because they had sortation centres, they had final mile operations, fulfillment centres, etc. Everyone was at 4 different companies doing this for them. They said, we still want to have 4 different companies, but we'd like you guys to actually work together, sit around the table and collaborate and get best practice from each of our different operations. And they actually branded this and they called it One Team. We even had caps made and shirts made, and initially everybody said, oh, I don't want to go and talk to that guy, or DHL doesn't want to talk to Kerry, or Kerry doesn't want to talk to Schenker, and so on and so forth. But we actually sat around the table and we really did collaborate, and it was really quite interesting. And I'm going back 5 years ago now. We used to go to each other's distribution centres, and it was quite open. Obviously, there's a lot of things in commercial and confidence which we didn't discuss and share, but in terms of actual best practice operations, we did that, and it was very, very successful. And that's what's coming now in the industry. There's going to be more and more collaboration in the future. Modularity. By 2024, supply chain will be redesigned for modularity with operational business model innovations in half the time of the competitors. So that will make operational changes easier, faster, and less costly. Autonomous. By 2026, 50% of supply chain organizations will use machine learning to augment decision-making capability. 50% of supply chain organizations will use machine learning to augment decision-making capability. So that's a really quite a big statement, but we certainly believe that's where we are heading. Decision in the supply chain will progressively move to fast-paced, fact-based capability enhanced by artificial intelligence. Now, how do we close the say we will do it, or say we're going to and we will actually do it gap? So sustainability, by 2025, in terms of packaging, 90% of public sustainable packaging commitments won't be met due to reliance on plastics and single-use packaging. Enterprise commitments to sustainable packaging have centred on 100% of packaging being reusable, recyclable or compostable. Ecosystems are key to success here, as organisations can come together at pre-competitive stage to establish standards and jointly fund innovative recycling methods and packaging solutions. And in terms of diversity, equity and inclusion, by 2024, 70% of organisations will report metrics to track the degree which the supply chain is delivering against the corporate's diversity, equity and inclusion objectives. And again, for people in the third-party industry, this is something we really have to subscribe to. So in terms of technologies, you can see the list there on the chart in terms of all the different applications, etc., that we're looking to move towards. And a lot of them are happening today, and a lot of them are in further development. But the real thing, we talk robotic automation, streamlining logistics operations, improving productivity. Productivity is the key driver in this industry. It's all about productivity. And we need to also look at the Internet of Things, increasing transparency of the supply chain, optimise the ROI, the return on investment, improve customer service and business applications for analytics. So the key drivers is growing the need to enhance the operational and supply chain efficiencies, rise in the adoption of big data technologies, the surge in government investment, big data initiatives, and the increased demand for cloud-based supply chain analytics. And the main trends, Internet of Things, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data. And if you look along the bottom row, those pictures are actually from our operations through various parts of the world. The picture on the far left is the AGV in Hong Kong. And we also use them for operations in China. And then the next picture is we call the ASRS, it's the Automated Storage Retrieval System. 10 years ago, the ASRS could only handle pallets, which was great for bulk products, but as the technology improved, they can now actually handle cases. So we use the ASRS in a case pick operation, and this obviously improves productivity and accuracy exponentially. And then, of course, the third picture is a robotic arm, which we use in operation in Hong Kong. and that's actually a cold chain operation for Marks and Spencer from the UK. So we handle all of the food products with that robotic arm. And the last picture is a drone. Our mother company, SF Express, they are now experimenting with drones in the outer islands around Hong Kong. So all of these are basically they're actually real live operations, but at the same time we are piloting and experimenting as much technology as we can as we move forward. In terms of the integrated end-to-end use of new technologies, some really interesting things happening out there. And I think the one example I'd like to share with you is on the bottom right with Walmart. So Walmart started embracing blockchain. And if you look at the chart, the mango tracking challenge before blockchain was 6 days. Now it's down to 2.2 seconds. That is the power of blockchain. And we could have a whole new, we spent the whole day talking about blockchain, but I'm sure you're aware of the implications. But it is so powerful going forward. It's going to fundamentally change the way we operate in this industry. We need to ensure end-to-end visibility. We need to move from risk mitigation to risk management, and the technological impact on how logistics companies operate. So as I mentioned earlier about the collaboration, FedEx has actually joined hands with UPS and DHL to lobby for blockchain standards that could be deployed. 3D printing, UPS has built a 3D printing network in the US and Asia, and they've now established on-demand inventory and next-day delivery with 3D printing. Drones, you can see we already, in the previous slide, we're already using drones. And artificial intelligence, joint research of an emerging AI technology helps increase efficiency and improve service levels. DHL and IBM are working together on that. And the Internet of Things in terms of remote container management. So there's a lot happening, there's a lot of collaboration as we move forward in the industry. Control towers, I'll just go straight to the end in the essence of time. There's 4 different levels you can see there in terms of what we class as control towers. The real optimum is level 4, that's where we need to be. And level 4 is autonomous and interactive execution, powered by real-time network data. We've fused together both internal and external supply chain data that also doesn't just allow visibility, it allows companies to actually make decisions, so it increases visibility, traceability, and by automating the resolution of typical chores at scale, organisations free up their professionals to concentrate on more strategic work. So my previous company, we actually put in one of these control towers you can see for a global electronic company, and it was really powerful because what they did, it allowed them to focus on their core business and then allowed the logistics company to actually provide the data. However, the trick was there were different players in the chain, and the only way we could get the players to collaborate was by the brand actually mandating that each player would then have to integrate into my previous company's network system, which they did. To get them to do that without any customer interaction might have been a little bit tough, but once they did, it allowed the brand really to focus, as I mentioned earlier, on their core competency, and we provided all the data to improve their supply chain. So that brings me to the end of the piece in terms of technology, where we see the industry. Very quickly, I'd just like to share some facts with you that we've uncovered in terms of what's happening here in India. As Mr. Britto said, the population in India by the middle of this year is actually going to be the biggest in the world. 2023 GDP is 5.9%, but India's overall consumption could more than double. And this is really interesting because in the last 3 days we were in Mumbai and talking to several of our customers and potential new customers, and we got the same feedback from everybody, how they're extremely bullish about the domestic consumption here in India. And again, we talked about the size of the GDP pushing towards $5 trillion, which is phenomenal. So, in terms of the sourcing shifts, there's been a huge relocation in terms. So on the left, there are movements to new places to existing locations for factories, and on the right, the factory shift resulted in the shifts in the labour demand. Electronics and also being the main sector. The company relocation distribution to 2018 to 2023 is quite staggering. So Southeast Asia is 55%, Central and North America is 17%, East Asia is 16%, and Southeast Europe is 12%. Vietnam is the largest benefactor, and we see that in our industry, the amount of shoe factories that have relocated from China to Vietnam. And the two main reasons for the shifts, geopolitical, 23%, and increasing tariffs, 23%. And the cost of production is 7%. That basically makes it 50% of the rationale. This chart talks about the overall consumption. I mentioned it could more than double. So India is on track to become the world's third largest economy by 2027, surpassing Japan and Germany. Indian consumers like to have more disposable income. India's income distribution could flip over the next decade. So we're talking earlier, Mr. Britto mentioned it, we doubled from 2 million to 4.9 trillion at the end of the decade. And what I find really interesting is, when you look at the graph on the right, is the e-commerce sales growth. In recent years, India has experienced a boom in both internet and smartphone penetration. The number of internet connections in 2021 increased significantly to 830 million, driven by the Digital India program. Out of the total internet connections, 55% of connections were in urban areas, of which 97% of connections were wireless. This smartphone base has also increased significantly and is expected to reach 1 billion by 2026. This is how India's digital sector is expected to reach US $1 trillion by 2030. Okay, in terms of online retail, key factors. Again, this has been helped tremendously by the rise in the India e-commerce as the favourable policy reforms. The FDI, the foreign direct investment, 100% is now permitted for B2B e-commerce. Increased participation in funding. The Indian government's leading by example in terms of a saved to the tune of $1 billion by putting in the new digital government e-marketplace. Enhanced adoption of digital systems, which is really growing exponentially. And the emergence of the digital savvy buyer and the netizens is really interesting. The high internet penetration and mobile connectivity is also instrumental in driving the e-commerce user based in India. Another key factor is the government's favourable policies like Digital India, thrust on cashless payment options and the upcoming 5G telecom revolution in 2021. The expectation is that 80% of the segments will be with access to mobile. A report by Invest India says that by 2025, internet penetration will cover more than 55% of the entire population, with a corresponding jump in online shoppers, 15% in 2020 to 50% by 2026. This is, I mentioned earlier in terms of sustainability. Again, in the essence of time, I'll move on. But one of the key messages here is electrification. And you'll find everyone is now looking at autonomous vehicles around the world. The biggest challenge with autonomous vehicles at the moment is obviously the battery life, and secondly is the charging stations. And we'll need a huge investment to be able to get enough charging stations, especially in a country like India with such a large geography. Okay. And then this is my closing slide. So 5 springboards in order to get developed nation status by 2047. So seize the opportunities of the green revolution. This is absolutely key in terms of transitioning from a high to a low carbon economy. Be a leader in tech, and I think I've seen that in my short time I've been here on this trip in terms of how the technology is really, really booming, with cashless payments, etc. Develop the sectors of tomorrow. The government's offering production-linked incentives to attract manufacturers to India to support domestic producers, speeding India's progress towards being a global manufacturing and export hub. Building skills for the 21st century. So that's what all you guys at the back, that's your job going forward. And hopefully, with the support of Mr. Britto and the curriculum that he's putting together, that's going to help all of you understand and give you a leapfrog moving forward into the logistics industry. And harnessing the potential of young people and women. People under 30 and women make up more than 70% of India's population. So they represent a huge energy source for India's economy. And the centre will have opportunities to fulfil that potential. Okay, so on that note, that brings me to the end of my technical slide, and I'd just like to finish with a message from my Prime Minister. He tweeted, okay, so Mr. Anthony Albanese, and this was at one of the test matches when he came out with your Prime Minister. As two cricket-loving nations, Australia and India share a fierce but friendly rivalry. At the heart of this contest is genuine respect, reflecting the affection and friendship between our peoples. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your informative lecture. We will now have an interactive session. The floor is now open for questions. Dr. Deepak Madhivadaran, Assistant Professor, Operation and Supply Chain Management, Chair, Research and Publications, LIBA, will be moderating the session.
Thank you, Mr. Parks, for a very valuable lecture, and I hope our students have enjoyed and really understood this one. And we open the stage for questions.
Very good afternoon to all present here. Thank you very much for the guidance and regarding various dimensions of logistics, also the global.
No, we couldn't. Can you repeat your question?
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Thank you very much for the global perspective in logistics. So we would like to know how technology can help last mile delivery to the rural population become affordable in a country like India when cost is a very big issue. And also the rural population constitute a major percentage of the Indian population. Sorry for the inconvenience, I would repeat the question.
No, it's understood.
Yeah, I got the name in the back. Okay. 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 So, in terms of the final mile and the last mile, out to rural areas, the key in the transport business is all about utilisation and capacity. If you have trucks running half empty, effectively you're moving fresh air, and you don't get paid for moving fresh air. Therefore, if you've only got half a load going to any destination, you're going to have to basically pay double what you should be paying. So first of all, the first key is to make sure you achieve the right capacity utilization. Now, how do you do that with technology? You do that through a sophisticated, what we call TMS, Transport Management System. And the Transport Management System today are extremely sophisticated, and they will actually calculate load planning so you will get optimum utilization within your vehicle. But not only will you actually fill the vehicle correctly, the TMS will also be able to drive the scheduling of the truck. So previously, a lot of this was done manually in many countries. But today, through the use of the TMS, the Transport Management System, the route planning is actually calculated with computer technology to make sure that everything is running efficiently. And also, the routing is very important, because today's technology, I'm sure a lot of you use apps when you're traveling around. The technology will then be able to tell the driver which is the best to get to the final destination, avoiding traffic jams, accidents, also the type of road that he's going to be using, because that is also important in terms of fuel consumption and the wear and tear of the tyres and the maintenance of the vehicle. So all of these things bundled together with a sophisticated transport management system will then be able to provide the lowest possible cost for delivery to outlying areas.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Any other questions for us? Yes, Irene.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Deepak, and the question I have for the panel is about the green logistics. Sir, considering the enormous dependency the logistics industry has on the fossil fuels at the moment, where do you think, as a country, India is in the mix of things on a path to have a sustainable logistics framework?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think, and as I mentioned during my talk, sustainability and environmental issues are apparent all over the world, not just in India. But the, in our staff, things that even in your transit, in your warehouse, we look at reducing plastic, we're increasing solar technology, wherever possible, eliminating waste. The whole key is to eliminate waste, and then to harness non-renewables, in terms of wind energy, solar energy I've mentioned, water. It's a big question which doesn't just relate to the logistics industry, it relates to the whole world. And everybody is really now striving in terms of all the latest technology to be able to actually reach that level. Of course, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles are right up there at the top of the list. So some countries like Thailand, for example, the main fuel company in Thailand, PTT, they've decided that they will invest in all of the charging stations in Thailand. So Thailand is really is right at the forefront now of the, shall we say, the EV transport industry on a long distance scale. It's very easy to have a EV operating in a city-state like Hong Kong or Singapore, where you've got short distances every day, and you've got charging stations really back at the base. Of course, your truck will come home every night. But in a country like India, which is pretty similar to Thailand in terms of the geography and the long distance between each of the cities, you are going to need, at some stage, somebody is going to have to invest in the charging stations. But definitely autonomous EV vehicles in the future.
Yeah.
Hope you got this point. And any other question from audience? Anyone?
I think everybody's hungry.
So my question is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, sir. We have one question. One last question.
So AI technologies have been improving day by day, and to what extent will they be reliable in the logistics sector?
The point is something like how AI will be reliable in terms of logistics.
Okay. Again, that's another great question. So in terms of artificial intelligence, many different aspects, but the one I just mentioned earlier regarding the transport management system, that itself has made a massive reduction both in time and in manpower from the route and transport planning. Then we will move from that into the warehouse. And in the warehouse, we are using, obviously, robots. We have many different types of robotics. So what happened previously, I talked about the ASRS. The ASRS, using artificial intelligence, can operate a facility. As an example, we're in operation 80,000 pallets. It's a closed facility, no human beings in it at all. It is all run by robotics, computer, artificial intelligence. But what happened was that technology became quite limited because it was a static structure, and also it's extremely expensive. And in terms to get ROI, you need long-term contract with your customer. But then what happened in the robotics, which is goods, we call goods to demand. And the robotics, that showed you in the earlier chart. And these robots they actually go to the what we call the pick face in the distribution center, and they will then pick individual products and then bring them to the man. We call it goods to man. And this goods to man has been revolutionary in the industry, because previously you would have a human being would be walking around sneaking in the warehouse looking for products. So now we've got machines bringing the products to the central point where they are picked and packed, and then they are obviously put into the transport vehicle, and that again the route has already been arranged with the transport management system. And also in terms of robotics, using robotic arms much more than previously. All of this bundled together. These are all physical movements, but the real key is analytics and big data. And in analytics, for predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. And this is a game changer in the industry, because then it allows a customer brand to actually pivot at any moment in time. So, for example, you're going to a certain part of the world, and then all of a sudden there's an increase in the requirement for their goods in a different part of the world. They can then divert that container. They can drop it off in one port and take it straight to another port. But by looking at the demographics and understanding, where their product should be at what moment in time, it makes a massive difference. Some of the that's happening in India, but certainly in Hong Kong, through the use of analytics, the fast food outlets, the convenience stores, they are positioned certain products. They position certain products in different parts of their store at different times of the day. For example, in the morning, they put their bread and milk at the front of the store because they know that people are going to be buying bread and milk at that time of the day, and so on and so forth. So AI is huge, and it's not just going to be in the logistics industry. You're going to see this happening everywhere in our normal walk of life.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for patiently addressing the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your enthusiastic participation, and my special thanks to the dignitaries for patiently answering all our questions. May I now invite Professor P. Chandran, Associate Dean, Weekend and Diploma Programs, and Chair, Center for Logistics and Supply Chain Management, to give the concluding remarks.
Good afternoon to you all. As part of this endowment lecture, Dr.Xavier Britto has instituted an award named as Dr.Xavier Britto Excellence Award to appreciate best academic performance in logistics and supply chain management studies. This award is given every year to best student of postgraduate program in logistics, a program of LIBA in collaboration with Kerry India Logistics. This year, Dr. Xavier Britto Excellence Award is going to Miss Soumya Alagappan Singaram, and I request Dr. Xavier Britto to present the award to Miss Soumya. I request others dignitaries to join with me. Thank you, sir. Mr. John Parks has given us an overall view on future trends and innovations in supply chain and logistics. He explained how current world and supply chain are now facing different challenges. The 6 key trends, namely region-wide growth, B2C now to B2C soon, demographic drivers, localized business models, manufacturing spillover, ESG on the rise, and provided us various dimensions of logistics and supply chain. He has given the importance of technology and how it is used in end-to-end supply chain. Finally, he gave his perspective on Indian economy, how factories are moving to India, and his predictions on Indian retail and consumption. Thank you very much, Mr. John Parks, for your valuable insights. I would like to thank Dr. Xavier Britto for initiating and supporting this endowment, and wish more from him for education in the area of logistics and supply chain. I thank our visionary director whose advice and guidance shaped our initiatives and programs. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Father Pundi Rajan for his support. I thank all the senior managers and executives from Kerry India and other organizations who have come to grace this program. I thank our Dean, Professor Lakshmi Narayanan, for his insightful inputs and suggestions to conduct this event. I am grateful to Dr. Sivakumar, Dr. Trisha, Dr. Theophilus, Dr. Madhapriya, Dr. Chitra and Professor Aishwarya for their support and coordination. I thank all SAC members, Arista Club members, the choir, the MC, volunteers for helping to execute this event. I thank our administrator, Mr. Janathan and his team for their planning and execution. I am grateful to all our students of PGDM and PGP for being a good audience. Finally, I thank God Almighty for successful completion of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All good things must come to an end. We have now come to the end of today's program. Thank you all for being here with us today. We now request everyone to kindly stand for the national anthem and remain standing until the dignitaries leave the auditorium. Audience are kindly requested to stay back